Hello, welcome to a video on some productivity tips with ProLedger Online. With ProLedger Online, there are certain automation features that will speed up your bookkeeping that are in the program. Now, these features are mentioned throughout some of the how-to videos, but in this video, we're going to kind of give you a brief overview of them all, so to help you become more efficient in the use of the program. So let's take a look. Okay, first one to mention is tip one, using defaults feature in the setup screen. And there's two types of default features there. There's category defaults and tags for pre-written descriptions. So what do we mean by category defaults? Well, if you have an expense category, for example, office supplies or automotive, gas and oil, these are all category names. And you can set up defaults as to what payment method, how do you want that expense classified when you make an entry that is most common, speeding up the process. So let's take a look at that. So for example, if you're going to go to the setup screen and take a look at your categories, let's go to your expense categories and let's use office supplies as our example. So for office supplies, you can choose what is the most common method of payment when you buy office supplies. Now you can edit this later when you make an actual entry, but what is the most common choice? So let's say it's MasterCard. And also, what is the most common category? Would it be up to a project, to personal, to a split between business and personal? Well, let's just say it's generally general business. So I'm going to choose that. And the other thing is, how are these office supplies expensed? So you can choose 1, 2, or no taxes as the most typical way that office supplies are handled in your bookkeeping. And once you're done these setups, choose Save. Now, when I go back and do an actual bookkeeping entry, instead of populating all these fields one by one, I go straight to categories. I go down to office supplies and everything is almost populated. You see general business here, you see MasterCard, you see the taxes were chosen according to my defaults. All I have to do now is put in the description and the amount. So if I put in the amount here and choose submit, then the bookkeeping is done. So it goes very quickly when you set up those defaults like that. Okay, so let's look at tags for pre-written descriptions. Now you notice that I didn't write a description in there yet, so we can do that, or we can do it in a very simple way by going back to setup, going to descriptions, and let's say, for example, I'm going to delete this because I wanted to show you how to actually set this up. Let's say, for example, for our office supply expense, one of the pre-written descriptions you want to use might be that you want to put the vendor's name in there. In this case, let's say it's Staples. And when you use Staples as a pre-written description to come up on that field, you want to say, okay, what expense category do you want Staples to come up under? So let's say it's office supplies. And let's say it's print and direct mail would be another one. So whenever you choose the office supply expense category, Staples will come up as an option as a pre-written description. So this is how this actually works. And you can set this up for as many pre-written descriptions as you can think of. So let's try another one. Let's try Office Depot. Will be another place you might buy office supplies at. So we'll put that in as a pre-written description for office supplies. And perhaps, again, you can do as many categories as you would like. Let's go print and direct mail. And let's try this, tag this also with other expenses. So now we're adding pre-written descriptions in here and we're tagging them with the appropriate category name. So if I'm choosing automotive, fuel, and oil as an expense category on an entry, I'm not going to see Office Depot and Staples. I'm going to see SO and Shell. Okay, so this makes your entries nice and clean. Let me show how this works. So if I go back to this office supplies entry and I click on description, you see how it popped up with these two possibilities. So if I want to choose Office Depot, I choose Office Depot, and then I can just finish it with an invoice number and whatever I want to put in there to finish that entry. So it'll just speed up, again, your bookkeeping entry process by using tags. All right, so another tip. Tip number 2, use the repeating entry feature. So basically what we're doing is if you have a monthly payment or a bi-weekly payment, or you have a number of payments coming up in the future, you can set those up in advance, and I'll show you how to do that. So if I go to add record, you're going to notice to the right of the date field, there's a repeat record button that appears. And so if I say this particular payment, let's say it's a car loan payment, or whatever, or it could be a bank service fee payment. I'm going to go, let's use car loan as the example. So I'm going to have a payment February 20th, let's say. And let's say the next payment is going to be March the 20th. And so on. So I can just keep adding. Let's go to April and add that. So I've got 3 set up there now. I'm just going to stop there, and you get the idea, and choose done. Now, because these payments are in the future, I'm going to, you can let's say this is an auto lease or loan payment, and now they would normally come out of checking, but because you could leave it at checking if they're payments from the past. But if they're payments that haven't been made yet, and you're just recording them like this, you could just say these are payables at this point, okay? And you could just put in, whatever the vendor name is. Let's say it's a bank ABC, and you can add this as a pre-written description from here even. And then let's say the amount of the payment is $350. Okay, so now you've set up this as a repeating entry, and you've set it up as a payable, and then you're going to submit this. Then you see how the payables are in yellow. You've got 4 entries made, and because they're payables, they don't show up yet in the expense in the reports, because this money has not flowed yet. But what you want to do each month is then go in to your payables. Let's say you go back, and now it's going to be February the 20th, and now you want to record this as no longer a payable. I actually paid it. And then you can go and just choose whatever account was used, and now it's no longer a payable. It's actually a payment that you've recorded that was made. But what happens here is just speeds up the process. You've made all these entries. Maybe you can do a year at a time, and then each month you just go through your payables and edit the account the money came out of, and those entries are made. So this would greatly speed up your entry process. Tip number 3, the bulk editing feature. So you can edit, if you have a bunch of entries that need to have a similar edit, you can do those in batches rather than individually. Let me show you how. So let's say, for example, you want, I didn't want these set up as split class, so I'm going to just edit these 3 items here. And I'm going to change this to, these were all going to be assigned to project 1. Then I choose project 1, and it says, do you want these 3 records to be updated? I say yes, and you can see they're all updated. And if I want all these to be coming out of my checking account, I don't want them as payables, I can make that change. Or I can delete them in bulk, and so on. You get the idea. You can make bulk entries by simply selecting the entry and then editing them all at once. Tip number 4, something that can save a lot of time, is you can import your data from, let's say, your online bank accounts and your credit card accounts into the program using a CSV file. So you go to for example, you go to your bank account and you download your records as a CSV file, then you import them here. And I'll show you basically, and there's a whole video on this, but I'll just be very quick here. You just go into Tools, go to the Import tool, choose the CSV file, let's say from your bank, and I created a sample here. And here's your data. Is the first row headings? No. And then you just map it. It's very simple once you do it once or twice. This is the date field, and the date is expressed as month, let's say day, month, year. So we got day, month, year. So it's December entries here. And this is for the, let's say the visa. Then we're going to go down and choose description. That's a description. This is part of the description field as well. And these are totals. So once I've mapped out the fields, I go next. And here's all your entries. And now you still have to put in the class and categories in order for this to be, these to be finished bookkeeping records. So I could go through now and say, okay, I'm going to use I could manually enter them one by one, edit them, or I could actually use the auto editor. And this is the next screen here. It says use the auto editor feature. So instead of editing each record individually, set up a script and it'll do it for you, and you can save that script for next month and so on. So how do we do this? Go to auto edit, create a criteria, and say anytime a description includes the word shell, then I want this to go into general business, and I want this to be categorized as auto, gas, and oil. And you can save that script, and it'll keep it there for you for future months of bookkeeping entries. And you can have hundreds of scripts. Okay, so let's apply that script. And you can see, oh, it found shell, and it found shell, and it applied general business, gas, and oil to each one of those entries. And you can see at the top left, there's 2 valid entries now that you can import just using that method. So you can manually edit each one, or just use scripts to do this. Go next, and those entries are in your bookkeeping program. Now you can upload a CSV file with thousands of entries, and you can edit them all using the same process I just showed you. So you can do your work very quickly using those features. And there is a video on how to use the import feature and the auto editor feature in more detail in our how-to tutorials. Next one is the API key integration feature. Now, it's something quite new, but don't let this scare you. It sounds technical, but you do a few of them and you'll be amazed at how quickly, for some of you, how this can help you. You can automatically transfer data from other applications using Zapier. And so that's the first thing. And so you have a program, let's say you want to use Square for invoicing, or you use PayPal to collect money from your sales, or WooCommerce, or Shopify. You know, whatever programs you're using to collect money or to make payments, Zapier will integrate with over 6,000 different programs. So you can actually set up a little script in Zapier so that those entries, as soon as you make a sale that's recorded in PayPal or Stripe or WooCommerce, it'll automatically come across to ProLedger as a bookkeeping entry, and you won't have to do a thing. So very quickly, you go to Zapier, and when you create an account, it's free, and you give you 100 zaps a month without having to pay anything. A zap is a data transfer, or you pay a little bit for a greater volume. So for example, whenever you have a sale, let's say in Stripe, that's recorded in Stripe, or even PayPal, whatever, or WooCommerce, you just say Stripe's, okay, sale in Stripe, income. This is all API, artificial intelligence. So you can just type it in your own words. So when there's income in Stripe, record as income in ProLedger. So you just type that in there, and it's going to create the script using AI, and here it is. And you simply go through now and just simply finish that script, and it'll make that connection for you. And so if I go to try it, it's going to show me the script. And now when you want, it's going to ask you to log into your account, okay, for Stripe, and then it's going to ask you in ProLedger to actually create to put in a code, and that code, let's say in this bookkeeping file, you can go to API key, create a key, and let's just call it a Stripe key, or let's say a Zapier key. You can call it whatever you want. You create a little code, you copy that code, you can also download it for future reference, and you take that code, you put it in here for the account settings, and that's it. Whenever there's a income recorded, let's say in Stripe or PayPal, for example, if you use that as your part of your script, it automatically comes across into your bookkeeping program as a bookkeeping entry. You can see the video that we have on this feature in our how-to section, but I'm not going to go through all the details. I just want to give you the general idea of this is something you can look into. And you can also in Zapier create input forms. So if you want to set up it's very simple. In Zapier, you can set up a form, like an expense form, they're called interfaces. And you can go in here and create a form here to record an expense on your smartphone, or let's say you have a sale at a garage sale, or you have a yard sale, or you're at any kind of place where you want to use your phone to record expenses or even revenue in a very simple way without opening up the ProLedger program. You can make your custom form, you can say add, and it'll automatically push it into the bookkeeping program like that using the interface feature. So you can easily, very non-technical, you could create little forms where the financial information comes across to ProLedger. And of course, once these things come across, they're going to land in a little area like we did with this import screen, and you can create scripts to finish the entry or edit them before you submit them. So anyway, look at the API video for more information. And really, that's all there's to it for now. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. Thanks for tuning in.